States of America and to the republic for which it stands, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dear Heavenly Father, please show your grace upon us. Help us to make our wise decisions. Help us to make our life peaceful and cordial. And please protect us as we travel on. Amen. First thing we have is the minutes. I assume everybody received the community corrections. Budget for the year, right? So the new budget and housing and the extension office and the assessor's office. The transfers that's presented. If not, I will make a motion just accept all of them at one time. That's favorable.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion. We have a second. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carried. That takes care of transfers. Now the bills. We have a perfect storm here with additional appropriations here. I guess I'd like to just go ahead and open you guys individually, if that's all right. So if there are any questions. Here in the custodian, which is over at the courthouse, we have the chiller replacement for $43,812. Is there any questions for Bobby on that? I see her in the crowd here. If not, I won't have her come up if everybody's... Have they started that, Bobby?
No, we had to order it. It's a 10-week out order, so...
Because it's a brand new chiller. Everything's new. We're not patching up.
We tried to patch. It didn't work, so that's
I know.
right now we're still running, but that could change today, so we're just keeping our fingers crossed that everything's good until it gets here. So, and it is ordered, just ordered.
Is there any indication as to when it
It's
might
probably not going to be here until August.
Okay.
And then I'm figuring 1st of September if our unit pulls out, then that's when they'll take it down, so it's not quite as hot.
Okay. Any questions from everybody on the chiller initial appropriation? Do we have a motion to accept the $43,812 for the chiller replacement?
So moved.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. The next one is a adult level fee from the probation office. It's the explanation. Well, I see Greg's here. Does anybody have any questions for Greg at this stage, or would like to have Greg come up? Or I think it's pretty self-explanatory there with your letters. That is adult user fee probation over to retirement for $956. I guess it was an employee and we missed it in the budget part for the retirement side of it. So it's coming out of that adult user fee. If not, do we have a motion to accept the adult user fee probation additional appropriation?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We have Circuit Court, Guardian ad litem, and proper transcripts for $10,000 and $6,000. That's Circuit Court. Right here with that. Make sure. year on that. Let's see. Did we not give an explanation for that?
I didn't see any detail on that. Yeah, I didn't get one.
No.
I was hoping he was going to be here tonight.
What did you know what that pertains to?
Yeah, regarding an item, I kind of know a little bit. Beth Weber, the attorney that handles those cases, she will hold her billing until the case is closed. So they got a big bill for cases that was from last year, and she didn't even bill till this year. So that's why they have, but that's how she does her billings, because she won't bill till it's closed. So once the case is closed, then she'll send out the billing for the services.
Okay.
So that's why that $10,000. I know that's what that one's for.
And that's out of general.
Yeah, we budget for that, but, like I said, he puts it in his budget, but, unfortunately, she kind of holds that off, and we get a big balance.
I wonder, was last year under budget maybe?
It could have been. They could have had some left over.
I see.
I don't know off the top of my head, but,
Okay.
They could have had some. They usually use most of those fees.
I see.
The Garden item, and then the Pulper transcripts, obviously they're doing more transcripts than what they had budgeted. I mean, I don't have an explanation. I just know that's what the explanation was.
As I said, usually Judge Kirkhoff usually has it right, typically he attends, so these are pretty common things.
It's that, that he wouldn't have put them through if he didn't have invoices that he needed paid.
Yeah. So he needs to do it now.
I'm sure he does. Yeah.
Any questions or concerns over? What's your explanation?
It's unusual to have the feedback from the person making the rules.
No, but I understand what they're
I
doing.
can answer the Guardian ad litem just because I know that's what was
So they're billing.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I can't.
We have a motion to accept this additional appropriation for $10,000 and $6,000.
And if we don't approve it today,
That's why I was just asking, is it to be paid, or is this something that's to another?
Their budget doesn't have sufficient funds, but it could hold off on enough if you want to.
I'd like to at least see a little more.
I would like to hear from Ms. Kirkhoff.
I think just because it's consistent with everything that we've
Speak on the topic. So,
yeah, I'd say at this stage we can table till August and make do with what we're doing. August, here for the jail. There's a change in the landfill. The commissioners ended up accepting the bid for $34,950, which was the lower bid. And that's for the new water heater for the,
We actually run 3 units, so if we have problems with one, we'll still have 2 backups. So we shouldn't run into a problem. The one we have now is just a 1-unit system.
I had a question, Bonnie. The highest quote, because there was quite a variation between the quotes. The one state, does this have to be state boiler certified? Is that, it's a water heater. I don't.
Yeah, these are water heaters.
They're not pressurized.
That's the heating system. We are replacing one of those. That would be the higher bid. I think he misunderstood what the maintenance man told him, and it was pretty extravagant.
Yeah, I thought that's what I was reading into. I didn't want to read in too much to it, but I kind of took it because I thought I didn't understand a water heater being involved in that. So again, it was a water heater that was leaking in the place, so we told Bonnie to go ahead and get started with it, and then we'd jump behind him here and get hopefully the approval taken care of. Any questions from Bonnie on there? No. Concerns there? If not, do I have a motion to accept the $34,950?
I'll make that motion to approve that.
I'll second it.
We got a second. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. Additional appropriation.
Oh, well, we still have to approve those from last month. Reapprove those from last month.
EMS, or not EMS.
The court reported the vehicle. We approved the additional appropriations last month for Superior Court, Emergency Management, and Wells County Extension, but the advertisement was not for the right amount, so we need to re-advertise, so we just need to reapprove it.
Okay, for which, just for all three? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we just have to reapprove the exact same thing we already approved last month.
I'll second.
A second, all in favor signify by raising your hand.
Thank you.
Opposed? There we go.
Sorry about that.
No problem, glad you brought that up. Well, I guess I was right on here on the sheet.
The repeat, sorry.
Yeah, okay. All right. Mark, if you'd like to step up.
Good evening, everybody.
Money.
And thank you for approving a system. We're getting tired of hauling buckets.
Well, trust me, we didn't want to see the inmates being moved, and good thing.
We actually called American Civil Liberties Union to explain what the situation was, that when we did replace it, we were going to lose hot water for maybe a day. So they understood, so when they got complaints out there, they could answer that kind of ahead of it all.
If you don't know.
The only other thing I got, 91 inmates this morning, 9 are DOC, 23 are F6 DOC, and 6 for another county. And a monthly report. This was DOC was not in there, I think. A lot of times if there's something not standing in our abstract and the person to write, they want to talk about the billing and that, so we'll have to go through that, so next month.
Next, we have the Wells County Office Trent Bummer. Rick, you'd like to step up here? Just to Rick and Trent were at the commissioners meeting there, was it? And we're not voting on anything for information purposes. And they just actually, the commissioners did approve contribution into the budget. That's what we send the balance, so just the city information made this that far.
Director for Wells County. This is Trent Woodruff. I'm the winner. And like that, Trent, I'll get started.
Yes, good evening. This is my pleasure to begin with the commissioners. Basically, I've just kind of set the table of where we are as the EMS. Go to a lot of points here. The county commissioners are required to provide EMS service for the county's residents. Many counties contract outside organizations to provide EMS services. Some do it through their county hospitals. The Wells County's current structure was established back in 2000 with the sale of the county hospital. Upon the sale of the hospital, over $8.6 million was invested with the Wells Community Health Services Foundation. The investment proceeds were to be used to subsidize EMS operations. For the last 17 years, EMS has operated as a 501c3 organization that has provided great services to the citizens of Wells County. Not on the list here, our board consists of Kevin Wood as a commissioner, Todd Smith as a council president, Rick Piepenbrink is the CEO, and currently we have a gentleman, Bill Seck, who is a health professional, who is another member of the health professionals. I serve as the CPA controller of the organization. The Wells County Commissioners and the Wells County Council hold those positions on the board I just described. The EMS operates in 3 stations spread out in Ossian, Bluffton, and Chester Township. The EMS is staffed with paramedics and provides excellent response times to all parts of the county because of its geographical positioning. The EMS runs over 3,400 times each year, of which only about 2,100 of these runs are chargeable. The rest are standby runs or other responses that cannot be billed. Because of the running of runs of many of its patients, the EMS suffers a loss of over $300 per run, primarily from Medicare, Medicaid, and self-pay, many of which are uninsured, that make up the majority of the runs. The EMS has an average annual budget of nearly $2 million and provides 75% of its operating budget through its revenues. While the Foundation's investment proceeds are intended to cover the shortfall, with EMS's increasing operating costs and the difficult investment markets and recessions the economy has experienced, it's been necessary to spend in the endowment at a rate of about $94,000 per year over its 17-year life. While the EMS and the Foundation is still strong, I want to emphasize that, we've got a combined value of about $70 million. It is apparent that at some point, way down the road, the Foundation's assets will be exhausted if we don't make any changes. Therefore, we're going to approval to ask the county to add the EMS to the county budget to provide $125,000 of annual operating support beginning in 2018. Please note that other surrounding counties provide a minimum of $200,000 a year, some much more to support the EMS services. This $125,000 represents 6% of the EMS budget, or would represent 6% of the EMS budget. Thereby, between the EMS and the Foundation arrangement, we are nearly self-sufficient. But a little assistance now will go a long way to saving future taxpayers a great deal of expense. So, little participation now will help things solidify things for many years to come. So,
when I first went to my first meeting last year with these gentlemen, I sat down and asked many questions, obviously, and looked at the stats, and I looked at it, and I'm a pretty simple guy, and I'm sitting here thinking to myself, they're tapping this endowment sooner or later. This thing's not going to be here. I mean, just a matter of time, over a period of years. And then we had a little discussion that, with the low investments returns that we've seen the past 8 years or so, obviously anybody has a savings account in a bank realizes what's happened. Because obviously it's very conservative investments that they make that, Kevin and several of us thought, well, at least we need to look into this, because sooner or later, if we don't participate and try to help take the pressure off this endowment, again, who knows how long, keep tapping it. Sooner or later, it's going to deplete itself. So we're looking at it as a contribution, as the commissioners would look at it through a line item in their budget, which we'll see once they come to us, assuming that they put that into their budget. And then it would be our decision as a council to decide whether it's this amount, lower, higher, whatever. We have to, I guess not higher, but we have to make that decision at that time. Right now, we don't really have our numbers or anything, so we're still the DLGF. As we get into September, get into our budgets, we'll be able to look at this. But by law, we do have to provide EMS service for our county. And I guess as you look at it from afar, I don't know how we can do it any cheaper. I mean, I really did this, and other options at this point, but again, that's why.
With all due respect, I'm even talking to a professional, and it pains me to even think about putting more money into another entity as you are, but there's just no possible way to up the game with Medicare, Medicaid.
They make it hard as possible to collect anything. Almost on a course, every time they turn in a bill, they deny it. And they want more paperwork, more paperwork, more paperwork. The average rate for Medicare, Medicaid, $200, $240. So you can charge anything you want to, but you're only going to get your $200, $250. That just doesn't cover it. And over 60% of our runs are Medicaid and self-pays. And unfortunately, sending these bills to the self-pays is difficult, but it's necessary, and that's what we got to do.
Rick, is it consistent that, that dollar amount for Medicaid or Medicare or Medicaid, is it always pretty consistent? Every time, can it be different?
No, it's not a fee schedule.
Okay, so
it's the same. Yeah. It's all based on whether it's BLS or ALS. and there's a fee schedule, and then there's so many dollars per mile, and that's what it is.
Okay.
If they approve it.
Is it difference in the type of service you have to do to take that patient to a hospital? I mean, if it's severity of it, is it?
Yeah, so that's what we did last week, that's also counting on advanced life support. If we are running multiple locations and IVs and drugs, that becomes an ALS run, and that pays a little bit more than a basic, but not a lot. But it's their fee schedule, and it's what it is.
Trent, this question's for you. With regard to the $7 million, where is that, or who manages that fund or that endowment?
Yeah, we've got about $6.5 million invested with Merrill Lynch.
Okay.
Merrill Lynch, over the course of time, I believe over our 17-year history, has returned between 6.5% and 7%.
Okay.
Which is a fair percentage of what our actual benchmark would be.
I was curious if they'd taken losses from the crash in the market or anything.
Well, 9/11 certainly.
Okay.
I mean, we started this thing, invested the money. Sorry, my dates are maybe not quite right, but about July of 2011. No, I'm sorry, 2001, and then a couple of months later, 9/11 hit. We lost $1 million right out of the box.
I see.
Where did the original funds come from?
The Salem County Hospital.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And rather than taking the money and putting it into the county and then making the EMS part of the annual budget, the fathers back then decided to found this endowment to try to keep the EMS off of the budget of the county. And so for 17 years, I think there's been one time we've taken money from the county. And I believe those were extraordinary events back in the market situation. Way back when. That's been a number of years ago.
Theoretically, if no action is taken in the future, you'll be coming back and asking for even more money. I mean, that's how you would
I'll
see
give you a couple
it.
examples. Jay County supports their EMS completely. $1.3 million. That's what Jay County spends yearly. It's 1.2, that was going to 1.3 for their EMS service. Adams County is about $360,000 a year. The Parkview Systems, which is Huntington, Whitley, Noble, and LaGrange, are $250,000 a year. That's what their counties give Parkview. They still operate at a loss, but it helps offset that loss just a little bit. So considering all of those surrounding counties, what support they're getting, we're asking for quite a bit less than that.
And I would think in Parkview situation, they've got the overheads, the billing office and all those other things that take care of that overhead that we have to cover with our employees. And so,
Do you expect with the $125 a year that you can maintain the $7 million balance? Is that the goal? To try to not, I mean, it might
that's the
take a
goal.
little bit, but
That's the
that would
goal.
be to
Up and
not-
down overall, there will be some years. I mean, part of the 125 we're asking for will help provide for trucks. We've got a 3-year replacement schedule for trucks. And so that will help in those. If we can take a little bit more than we need each year, then that will help us to recover what we need then in that year that we need to replace the truck.
With the goal of that 125 being steady over the future.
Right on.
As far as the goal.
Yeah.
Right.
And it'll be up to the councils to make, if it continues down this pathway, it'll be the council that have the final say on what that dollar amount would be. So.
The $7 million is made up of $6.5 million of investments, and roughly a liquidation value of about $500,000 for the EMS equipment, the cash we've got on hand, whatever receivables are there, things along that line. So we just want to give you a broad overview of the arrangement of the two organizations together.
I see that it says that it was really 94,000 is where you've been over year. Why the added 30,000? Is that just fluff or
Vehicles.
just the
Every
vehicles?
3 years, we do a remount, which is take the existing box off of the ambulance, put it on a new chassis. You save about $60,000 by doing that. That's about still $130,000. Every 3 years, we have additional costs of $130,000 for a new vehicle. So that hits the foundation pretty big, plus any rate of replacements and things of that nature.
Really appreciate you coming in and giving us the stats and all the
Like I said, it's
information.
just the reality of what we're going to be faced with if we don't. If we keep kicking the can down the road, you end up with...
It's only getting worse, I think.
Yeah.
Give the...
Yeah, I mean, the drug problem we have right now is no more than any of the surrounding counties, but, we're seeing more and more overdoses, which we got to give the Narcan drug, which you guys, I'm sure, have seen in the paper a lot. And all of those people are uninsured. I mean, we don't make a dime off this. So we're spending a lot of money on these runs, and we're getting zero reimbursement for it. It's part of doing business, it's part of the job, but it really affects the bottom line.
And you feel like everything's pretty efficient? I mean, as far as running, how you're running the EMS, everything's fairly efficient?
Yeah, I've been CEO now for 5 years. When I came in 5 years ago, I cut everywhere I could cut. One of the first things I did was close our Markle station. We had a truck in Markle that wasn't making us any money, and it was a cash cow. So that got closed immediately. That was $125,000 a year right there. I went through and cut everywhere I can feasibly cut. We have what we need to operate, but we're as lean as we can get. I have nothing more to cut.
The budget has not increased much the last few years. We'll see certain areas with gas, depending on where prices are at. Patient supplies, obviously, there's some things that go up because of the drug situation, but by and large, it's been fairly flat.
Any other questions for the gentleman? Well, thank you very much for coming in and giving us the information.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Move forward as the budget comes through then.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks.
All righty. I guess we got next on the agenda real quick here will be Bluffton Motor Works CF1s. I forgot to bring mine.
I got it.
You got it.
You got it.
And just to let everybody, if you're not aware, wondering why Bluffton Motor Works is coming to the county, it's because that little piece of pie there is not annexed into the city of Bluffton. That's county. Yeah.
That goes in,
So sooner or later,
I had to look
they're
at that
coming
today.
in.
This is
Yeah.
actually next year.
Is it next year?
For the next year.
Yeah.
Well, they go in 19, but it'll be our assessment year next year. So anyhow, until then, we have 4, and it's all personal property tax abatements that they have sent their CF1s for.
I did.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll go through them. I have some questions with the brain. I don't remember, it's just request. Pretty much just continuation of what they've been doing.
They're in compliance based on what numbers I look at.
I didn't see anything looked at.
No.
Chuck, did you want to look at these? Everybody's good? Yep. See what you need there?
I've seen.
Okay, all right. Well, do we have a motion to accept the CF1s? Can I call this CF1? For everything we can play. We have a motion? We have a motion?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? The motion carries. All right. Darren, you'd like to step up here? Darren is with, you call it Data Pit Stop?
Data Pit Stop.
Tax consultant, okay. I know I've been here for 8 years and seen you a couple different times come through and had some information for us. This gentleman knows all kinds of things. There's all kinds of a good bean counter here, but no, he has some information for us in our stabilization funds and different things that we're...
So how many of you were here last year?
Yeah, everybody.
Our Seth was our only new one. He's
Yes.
not here tonight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We're missing 2.
A little background, I am in counties with an excise program, with a drainage program, with a website for analyzing losses. I deal with the DLGF quite a bit, and state auditor and state board of accounts, making sure I comply with everything, understand everything, and ask questions 3 different ways so I can hopefully get one answer the straight way. And what I put together before I got here a couple weeks ago for Beth and I talked for about 45 minutes today because she gave me some concerns of hers about what, I'll go ahead and hand this out. About a month ago she said that you were considering potentially thawing your property taxes because your stabilization fund is slowly depleting, and that kind of freaked me out because I already helped Wabash with that 2 years ago.
Thank you.
And I guess you get one.
Sure, thank you. I'm with the newspaper.
Yeah,
Okay. And you are...
That's Bill.
The voice.
Sorry.
Media voting.
Thank you.
Wabash County thawed their rates. They're going into their third year now. They went from losing roughly $250,000 to $500,000 last year to $1 million this year, and projected at $1.8 million next year in cap losses. So in other words, their taxes are now increasing, property taxes, because they thawed their rate. And their website, just like yours, you can go and find this information. In their case, WabashCounty85.us, under auditor, under property statistics. The example is 2 years ago, their frozen levy was roughly $18.7 million. Now it's $21.4. That's almost a 14% increase. Because, as Beth and I were talking, what do units of government want to do? They put in the max. So they've been doing that since they thawed, and they have the second highest income tax on top of that. So as Beth, again, we're talking about businesses. You're having a hard time bringing business here. They've had that problem since being the second largest income tax. People don't want to live there because they're going to get taxed heavy. In that time, we've been shuffling around their LIT money that used to be called LOIT, Local Optional Income Tax. They did away with the word option. Now they're calling it LIT, Local Income Tax. Tomato, it's still out of your paychecks. So we've been trying to shuffle it around, trying to give them the biggest bang for their buck, like I've done for you. You know, here we did it to qualifying rents, which meant homesteaders and rental properties. In your case, you're not losing that much. Right now, this year, you lost roughly $40,000. Without it, you'd be losing about $100,000. So peanuts, basically. Unlike Grand County loses about $9 million, and they have a full LIT of 1%, generating $11 million. Without it, they'd be losing $16 million. I deal with a lot of different counties of different sizes, and when you break it down to percentages, you know, yours is definitely the lowest. And you've done, not just you, county government, all your units of government have done fantastic, because 8 years ago, I pretty much looked at you as Wabash the same. You know, you both froze your levy. You both did a 0.4 rate for that. It's just that they threw it all to homesteaders. They did a full 1%. You did a 0.4 for property tax relief, giving credits back to tax bills. They went with a full 1%, and they gave it all to homesteaders. In doing that, it gave 3 years of zero bills. In doing that, that caused a domino effect. By zero bills, meaning every senior citizen has a zero bill now, because, yeah, you're shaking your head, 2% of zero is still zero. Hence, the $250,000 to $300,000 loss. That's all they were really losing was the seniors. The numbers on their website before I came here show that 5 years ago, homeowners were paying 6.8% of the tab. 10 years ago, before CAPS, before LIT, other than CADGET, and between Beth and I and the rest of you, we can say CADGET.
Yeah.
To the state, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
They call everything buckets and LIT. But you're a CADGET county, meaning you, as county council, dictate everything to the county. COIT, Grand County, they have a taxing board and have to send everything out for approval. 2 years ago, the homeowners then jumped to 13%, again, thawing the rates. As you start increasing property taxes along with high income tax, now the homeowners are starting to pay more. And they shuffle it around again. They keep having me shuffle it around. And now I had, a month and a half ago, I had to sit in front of their council and educate 4 new members of their council. One decided he just gave up and resigned, and the caucus voted one in, got one in. The other 2 were just elected because everyone's asking, why are we borrowing money now? You know, they haven't borrowed in all these years, and now in the last 2 years they're borrowing money. They don't have money to run on. Because in their county, they, again, gave it all to homeowners. They weren't looking at their losses. And the units of government didn't hear. Your units of government thought they had to come to you for approval when they wanted to pull money out of your stabilization fund. You know, because they thought it was part of the county government. Over there, they called the state and found out, no, when I think it was La Grove Township needed a new fire truck. They gave all the paperwork to the state and showed them why they needed this new fire truck. They said, well, you got the stabilization fund, pull it out there and buy it then. And they did. So they ran through their stabilization fund, like I said, 2 years ago. Beth and I talked, sounds like you've got at least 1 year. She's skeptical about a second year.
We could probably go 2, but I know we can't go 3.
Yeah. So that's why I put these numbers together. I'm not looking for any decision. I'm here to educate you, so hopefully you can understand, and never hesitate if you want to call me and talk about this. But anyways, what we're looking at here, you're generating basically $2.4 million in property tax relief. By last year's laws and prior years, the only thing we could do to try to hit the caps that you were losing, like I said, about 110,000, was to give it to qualifying rents, which was rentals and homeowners. Hardly any homeowner hits a cap, not just Wells County, but most counties, they don't hit caps. Because standard deduction of 60%, up to $45,000. Supplemental deduction was supposed to be a 3-year supplemental deduction, 35%, became permanent. So every homeowner for almost 9 years have gotten a supplemental deduction of 35%.
Is that set by the state or the legislature?
Legislators did it, and what was supposed to be a temporary became permanent. So when they gave all those massive amounts of credits 8-9 years ago and did a supplemental to basically take away part of that hit on top of it, all of a sudden it just stayed there. And so you're given your lit money to homeowners along with that 35% that never went away. And like I said, in Wabash, they were given 100% for 3 years. They're down to 73%. Now they have the hard choice of basically cutting that in half or almost doing away with it because, again, they've gone from 300,000 in cap losses to $1 million this year to going to be $2 million. So what I have in front of you is the first idea until Beth made a concern was if you move 0.2, you got a 0.4 rate. At 0.2 of that, which is $1.2 million, you can move to public safety. The other 0.2, again, $1.2 million, you could go to edit, whatever you want to pronounce that. Now, again, I'm looking at the generic terms of all the counties I work with. Edit, seated. Each county has their viewpoint on what you can use that for. Some people, that's for business. You pay for businesses. Beth told me about your bridges that you're doing here to help fix your bridges situation. That isn't the only thing you can use it for. You can use it to pay your PERF. You can do it for your health fund, your insurance, building maintenance, anything that develops and strengthens your county. You can use that money for. When you do that, when you take lines away from your general fund to where you say, okay, we're going to pull general fund and pay for this. Well, you don't do it. You leave it in the general and say, hey, commissioners, you got the seated money. Why don't you pay for that out of that? So if you have a line for insurance out of your general fund, if you were to increase the seated, you can say, we're going to use this much of seated and then take less of a hit on the general fund at that point. Public safety. I just heard the gentleman here, you're talking about your ambulance service or EMS. That is common in all my counties I talk to. How are we going to mandate, how are we going to pay for something that's mandated? And I was encouraged that your numbers were much smaller than all my other counties. Again, public safety. You can allocate so much of your public safety to pay for that so that, again, your general fund doesn't have a problem there. The concern is, and I was telling Beth, I did call the DLGF to verify, if there is, the best way to explain, if there is a line item on your budgets that say insurance and PERF, I mean, those are lines.
Those are big ones.
Huh?
Those are big ones.
Big and a line item. And you say, wait a minute, see, it's going to pay for that. That you're reducing your general fund by a fact of something that's there. So you can then, when you move it to seed it, you now free up some money in the general fund. The problem is, like Beth was pointing out to me, and I gave it verbatim to the DLGF, and they had to agree, if it's not spelled out, if you can't really see what is spelled out, that you're going to use seeded money or public safety money, they don't always catch it. And so I give you 300,000 over here in public safety, but you don't have a line item that actually dictates that money in your general fund that's going to pay for that. They're still going to let you raise your general fund up there to 4% for next year. And you got to see money or the public safety because they don't see things that are ambiguous, I guess was the word they use. If it's a line item, they can see the words, they'll catch it and they'll say, no, you can't raise that one 4%. You knocked it down 3%. Now you get a 4% on what you lowered it because you are now using CEDAR or public safety money. So that is less of a guarantee, would be the right verbiage.
Yeah, they're still going to take their max.
They're going to take their max.
Even if it's a government loan.
So the one way that they did say a guarantee by moving this around instead of public safety or seated is shares. Just as you have had the option and you've resisted, and so did Wabash, they thought the rates before they increased your levy freeze. You're at 0.4. The law, and I did verify, they have been trying, they're still going to try. They still cannot rescind or lower the levy freeze. Your 0.4, you're still locked into. They have not convinced legislators to say, let's let them lower it or rescind it. So you're stuck at the 0.4. The difference is they've consolidated what they saw as 13 buckets, in your case, 8. Your CAGIT, public safety, CEDAT, all the different alphabet soup. Down to 3 is the best way of saying it. Property tax relief. You allow 1.25% of credits to property bills. You're at 0.4. You can go 1.25. What they call the expenditures. You're familiar with your CAGIT of 1%, correct?
Certified shares.
Certified shares, okay. Your frozen levy of 0.4. It also includes your public safety of 0.05 and your CEDAT of 0.25. So Beth and I found that's 1.7. The new law says you can go 2.5. Any mixture you want to do is your business as a county. So you're still 0.8 away from maxing out shares, public safety, CEDAT, any mixture that you want to do.
But that still comes from the property tax side, right?
No, this is
It's not
income tax.
Okay.
How bad are you going to ding someone's paycheck?
Okay.
So I believe we determined you're at 2.1 as a rate.
Total rate.
2.2, sorry.
2.1.
No, it's 2.1. isn't it?
2.1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2.1.
2.1 as a county income tax rate. All right. 1.7 is what they call the expenditures, and 0.4 is property tax relief. The third bucket I didn't mention is special legislation that most of them are getting denied for jails and different things, and that is whatever the legislators decided they'll let you have if you put in for that. But they denied Wabash last year, and they don't know what they're going to do about their jail. So basically, these 2 buckets, you're at 0.4, you can go to 1.25. I'm not here to suggest raising income tax at all. Matter of fact, I'm saying don't do it. Don't thaw your rates. Don't do what Wabash did, is every year doubling their cap losses and changing 6.8% on homeowners to 13 to 14 to 15%. Their taxes, again, over 2 years have already raised 14%. Now, that's not just homeowners, that's businesses and farmers, it's everyone. You go back to what we got in the trouble with 10 years ago, why we have caps, because everyone got out of control and tax rates just kept going up. So I'm here trying to say, instead of just a guaranteed 1, maybe a 2, if you start pulling away these credits, at this point, really the only credits you're pulling away is from homeowners. The rental property, again, you're only losing $40,000 having this. So in other words, you got 1.68% of your property tax relief that you're even getting back into your own pockets. 1 to 2 cents on the dollar, basically. Why don't you try to shift that around to figure out where you can put this? Now, as a former CAGIT county, your grandfathered in the schools get 0.25% of that money. That does not change. But future, they get no more money of anything you do when you increase your shares. Do you have solid waste? They don't get any. Otherwise, everything else does, libraries, townships, cities, towns, and county government. All right. We also found, because you did your frozen levy, Beth was right, you're frozen at what you are getting, whatever the millions are as a county, that you're entitled to that, within $200,000 as they try to figure out rates. So by putting it to shares, whatever your current shares are percentage-wise that you generate, you just would be increasing that same amount. In doing that, it's like increasing your frozen levy, but you can change that anytime, every year if you wanted to. Your frozen levy, you're at 0.4, it doesn't change. But this one, hey, if next year you want to take a little bit away, and put it in public safety or seed it, you got the three buckets. Do we put it in public safety, seed it, or shares? Which one works the best for you? The bottom line is, can we extend it to a guaranteed 2 years, maybe 3 or even 4 years? Because think about it, $1.2 million, just if you moved half of it. And I would never, I tell all my clients, you never throw your back against the wall and dump it all in one thing. And I'm just did round numbers. If you want to do 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, what kind of money do you want to help to not pull out, by the end of the year, $800,000 out of stabilization for this year, you said?
708,000.
700, okay.
Can I?
Go ahead.
It's confusing to me how all at once, how is it decided that you jumped $400-some thousand or $500,000 out of stabilization?
Because
your settlement.
Yeah, our growth, units of government are still growing, but they're growing through income taxes rather than property taxes. Because our property taxes froze.
Yes.
So that growth just keeps going. So, we've been bringing in enough income tax to cover that growth every year since 2009 when we froze. So since 2009, we've been putting money in stabilization because we got more income tax than what was needed. Okay, so
And
3 years ago,
stabilization.
and that stabilization's for all units of government. So 3 years ago, we didn't bring in enough income tax to support the growth that the units of government needed. So we pulled
Of all
two.
government.
Yeah, this is all government units
It's
because
a
that's
big
all.
pool of money that helps.
It's all government.
Schools,
The county
everybody
just
gets
holds
it.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyhow, so we used 200,000 the 1 year.
Last year.
The first year.
Yeah, we've been, a couple of years, we've been a couple, or 200,000.
Yeah.
And that's why all at once this big jump, and that's what confuses me.
Well, that's
is
just why, that's why the big confusion comes.
Yeah.
I got it right
And
here.
it's like, I get,
Okay, we used 201,000. We had to pull 201,000 out of stabilization
to make the
to
pay the bill.
to pay our
Pay the
settlement out
difference,
for
Yeah.
property tax settlement. That was in 2015. Then in 2016, it went to 285,000. So it just went up,
a little bit, yeah. that's where-
85,000.
yeah.
This year, it went to 706,000.
See, that's what's confusing.
That's
me.
why
all
I-
at once we
Well,
reduced so hard.
Well, the
I
reason
saw it in
why.
Wabash, huh?
The reason why is because our growth quotient went to 3.8 last year when it used to be 2.1.
Yeah.
And all units of government take their full growth.
And that's why, Beth, when I talked to you today, she wanted to tell me that, so I wanted to revise my comments here that by moving it to seed or public safety, the whole thing. Now, again, we can intermix it. If you want just 200, 300,000 of this to public safety to, deal with like the EMS as the example, and then, 809. Again, you got 2.5% to fiddle around with this to figure out where the best bang for the buck is. But I've seen it. I've dealt with this in Wabash. That's what I'm saying. It is 14%. Every unit of government, literally, because when they thawed their levy, started putting all the max, and then the growth quotient just started at the same time increasing.
And next year it's 4.0. Went from 3.8 to 4.0. So it's going. That's why it's going to increase a lot more next year. I'm figuring next year. I'm just estimating next year's going to be 1.2 million out of stabilization. So
I think she's being optimistic, but
yeah. You think it'll be more?
oh yeah.
Yeah. See, it could even be more.
See, Wabash,
Yeah.
when we went from 285,000, I would say about $250,000. The next year was $500,000. I nailed that one. And I said, well, it's probably going to go to $1 million. Oh, no, it went from $250,000 to $500,000. It should only be $600,000, maybe $7. Boom, this year $1 million. And I said, based on what I've been doing, looking at their history now, the 3 years, and prior years of when they're on the old VAX, I pulled some of their old data before they froze their levy and saw the growth. And it's like, okay, people are, everyone's trends, habits, people just do things, the bottom line, they're going to grow, and they did. They just, it blew their mind when they saw that this year's losses were $1 million. $1 million in tax revenue that they cannot collect because the state can, I call it phony money. It's the caps. You can't collect it. Yet, up until last year, there was no line item to say, what is your cap losses? Last year they made the attempt, but they're 30% off. They missed it by 30%.
The
counties,
projections.
Yeah. Sorry, you budgeted, but hey, you can't collect
it.
Now, in your case, frozen levy, you didn't see that. But flip side of that, they still got the growth they wanted.
Well, we've seen it.
Through-
We just seen it.
Yes.
We've seen it, but we've seen it because we lost. Yeah, but we just seen it in a different way. Because
After the fact, after you got settlement done, now you see what all the units have been pulling from your stabilization fund.
Can you move to stabilization fund or to levy freeze? 0.4. Can you increase the levy freeze amount?
Well, yeah, but then you're under the grandfather clause that if you take the 0.4 to 0.5 or 0.6, whatever, because every year they've been telling you, increase it,
Yeah,
here's your recommending, and you froze it. And said, no, we froze it, we don't want people to move away.
Yeah,
Well, no, we're not following it. We'd just be shifting it.
shifting.
Yeah, but my point is, if you call it increasing your levy freeze from 0.4 to 0.5, until the legislators decide that you can ever rescind it, you're stuck with that 0.5 or 0.6. Whatever you increase the frozen levy, you're stuck with it until legislators decide, oh, wait a minute, let's just make it part of the shares. But the fact you got a 2.5 now expenditure rate, you're at 1.7, you can say, let's put this property tax relief from this bucket over to this one and count it as shares. Not frozen levy, but shares. And the next year, we didn't really need it all there. Let's take a tenth of it or a 0.05 of it away. Let's put that to public safety. It still getting hoarse. It still gives you the flexibility to move it around where you see that things pop up on you. That's what I'm into, is not increasing income tax, not thawing on the counties I have that did a levy freeze. Just manage the money better. Now, getting back to the piece of paper I gave you, the bottom side is a better one in that it's not taking it all away. It's only $1.2 million, a 0.2, half of your property tax relief. Beth, right at the top, she would see her homestead taxes go up 4.27%, or $27, because of the makeup of her house. The assessment, because she has non-res or agricultural land of $58,000, she wasn't getting a lot of credits. The second one, Seth, which is not here, I guess I don't have Steve on here.
You're lucky.
Mike, I got him with agricultural land. He's looking at actually. By the way, Beth asked me why would Mike get actually more credits. Right now, he wasn't getting any credits because we were giving it to qualifying rents, homesteaders, and rentals. But you're losing on your long-term care, your agricultural land, mobile homes, rentals, apartments. See, Cap 2, they keep, over the years, kept expanding, and at one time it was just 2 categories and 3. Now it's up to 5 or 6. What is considered Cap 2? The bottom line is, being we pull some money away, I still want to at least try to hit some of the $100,000 to $110,000 in cap losses. So instead of giving it qualifying res, I gave it to Cap 2. The new law, as of this year to next year, we can target any one we want. If you want to give it all to homeowners, which has always been there, which you don't need because you're not losing on home to speak of, but we can actually target rental properties. We can target commercial and residential rental properties. Or we can target all Cap 2, again, agricultural land and rentals and all that, or businesses. The bottom line is the law now said, hey, look, wherever you want to try to put it, as in Cap 1, 2, or 3, or mixing it up. Now, you can't pick and choose within Cap 2 other than all of Cap 2 or rentals of Cap 2. So, hey, let's try to hit it. So I threw a little bit to, I think 20% of what money we left. So 20% of 1.2 million, I gave to all the Cap 2 to try to hit your long-term care and agricultural land. And the 80% still to homeowners. So that's why he actually gets a credit at $63.88 on his agricultural land, but the flip side, he would be paying more on the rental and more on the house. The bottom line is, being that you are given majority of your credits to homeowners, that's the only one that's going to be paying more money, for the most part. But it helps you stabilize your stabilization fund by moving it to other places. I know there's a lot to take in, and again, I'm not here to have any decisions. I'm just here trying to give you the massive amount of possibilities that they took the rules away of how they govern how you could do this, and they put them way up here now. The greatest part is when you put it to the bottom line, it means now you have extra cash down there, not pulling from stabilization, because when you start running out on the bottom line of your current shares, and then you run out of the settlement of what you collected through property taxes, the last thing you start doing is pulling from stabilization. Well, you infuse it with 700, 800, whatever, in the bottom line. Now, you're not going to the property tax, you're eventually not going to take it out of stabilization.
But the other unit of governments are still tapping the stabilization fund, right?
Everyone is, and in this case,
just be us, the county would be doing it less by putting it over to.
No, cities and towns. Everyone that gets shares would be pulling less from stabilization because you're giving them more of the shares. But again, like I said, this was just a quick. You think about rolling dice, or how many different ways can we split this up?
Shell game,
yeah, shell game. The question comes down to, do you want to bother even changing anything around? But if you do, then when you do your budget, you say, well, hey, like there, EMS, maybe we can use some public safety, increase the 0.05 to 0.06, 7, 8. You don't have to go 10, 15, 20. I just do it because I got to give you a number some way.
Sure.
So what we do is just, okay, we look at the percentages you get now of public safety at 0.05. What is the county's portion? And you say, well, we really need this. Well, then divide it through each percentage click. I've seen counties do 0.005. Now, keep it to 1%. A tenth of a percent increase is a lot easier. I've seen less mistakes, literally mistakes at the state level when you keep it to the 2 digits. A county I had actually went up to 3 and 4 places, and stages, they messed up everything. Simple spreadsheets. Most things default to 2 decimal places. So, again, anytime you have questions, not just tonight, Beth has my number and email address. Never hesitate to email or call me. I'm here to answer questions. If you have any tonight.
I was going to say, anybody have questions for Darren here? So it is confusing, but it's just a movement of where things are.
Trying to not increase income tax, not increase your property taxes, and try to, in this case, I would say, kick the can down the road. Let's see how far we can kick the can down the road before you start mandating, the state will mandate you to increase your income taxes, to thaw your rates. It's not a matter of...
Is that what they do when it gets to the point where the stabilization fee or stabilization fund is...
Wabash.
Yeah,
Wabash Council says, why do we need to send a letter to thaw our rates? The state's going to do it anyways. I said, then you look like the idiot because you didn't know how to manage your money. And when they realized, oh, wait a minute, if they don't have enough money, we have to pay the tab. We ain't paying any of their tab. So they were going to thaw it anyways. And they got a letter from the DLGF after my conversation. They said, here, if you don't do it, we will. And I said, wouldn't it look better in the newspaper that you thought it, you acknowledged it? And that's what I'm saying here is when Beth freaked me out and said they were considering thawing, it's like, oh, I've already seen it spiraling out of Wabash. I'd rather not see you do that.
Sure.
Darren, have you been advising Wabash County over?
Yeah, every year since they implemented the year after they implemented, because they did not need to do a 1% lit. You did 0.4, property tax relief. They didn't need the 1. They weren't hitting caps. But whoever they talked to at the time, I think it's Umball and the state, they said, no, you need to freeze your levy. You need to do this and this and this. And give it all to homeowners, you know. And then, because I was doing the website for 2 or 3 years prior to that, and I had been starting to work with cap losses. I was doing it for Grand County, where they didn't do a frozen levy, they just went 1%, because at the time, the council president, Jim McWhirter, kept getting stuff from the state saying, dollar for dollar replacement. We only need a half, because a half is going to generate, $5 million, and we're losing about $3 or $4 million. So, dollar for dollar. And I said, no, you don't understand. My dad lives in the county. The rate's 1.8. He's not hitting the cap. So he's going to get $80 of property tax relief, and you're not getting a dime of it. Now, on the other hand, in Marion, someone is hitting the cap, and you're losing $80 from them. You're going to apply $80 to their bill, and you're going to get that because you couldn't collect it through caps, but you collect it because the crazy law says credits go to the gross. Down here is what you have to pay, but we're going to apply it to the gross until we hit what you actually have to pay. So if your tax bill was $4,000, but the cap says, no, you only pay $2,000, there's a $2,000 loss there. So if we apply $1,000 of credits here, the taxpayer still only pays $2,000, but $1,000 of that county government and all the units of government get that $1,000 of credits. They're still losing the $1,000 of cap losses, though. Now, the homeowner or the business or whatever got the credits, like, wait a minute, I was already protected, and now I got income tax? You applied it to the gross? I didn't have to pay the gross. Why didn't you apply it to the net? I said, because the losses don't have to.
So back to my question, you have been advising Wabash County for 5 years.
You, Huntington, Grant County.
Evidently, they did not follow your recommendation.
The only thing I was able to get them to do was move it over to qualifying res 4 years ago, which is well past all the problems they had, just so they could take away some of the hurt and delay thawing the levy 1 more year. I kept trying to tell them, move to qualifying res, because that was, in their case, rentals. Wabash County is full of rentals. Because people don't want to live there, that own it, they live somewhere else. And they just, the president of the council, I went to his house, we had tables galore, everything out, for 2 hours before the meeting. And he just wanted to nail it down on what was best. And the end result was, what matters is voters, I mean homesteaders. That's actually his words. I said, I understand, you're doing it for political reasons, not for financial reasons. And again, he did not get reelected. The new council, they said, in other words, they kept stealing from our future, and now we have to take the blunt. I said, there's no question about that. And they thanked me for coming, and they said, we're going to, like now, as I'm just giving you information, I gave them information, and they are mulling over to realize, do we take it all the way from homeowners, 73% of the credits? And I said, no, that's, why don't you just put a gun to your head? You can't take 73% of the credits away. Granted, on the paperwork I gave them, a homeowner that was paying $200, as an example now. 2 years ago, it's $50. But it was $1,200 10 years ago. And taking it all away was going to get them to $800. So it's like, I agree, you're never going to pay what it was 10 and 15 years ago. With caps and everything that's going on, you're never going to get back to there. But yes, it's going to go back up. But how do you justify going from $50 to $200 to take, okay, now we're going to jump you to $600 or $800? At that point, that's why here I said, slowly take it away. You're not in, your back's not against the wall. Take it down 0.1, 0.2, whatever. I would not go beyond 0.2. I wouldn't take half away. But less than that, sure. But how can we look at, and your budgets will tell you that, and what things come up will tell you better.
Now, will legislature change, now the exemptions the legislature's put in, right? A lot of those exemptions.
Exemptions and deductions. And
We have no,
you just pointed out is
just the
abatements
credits.
are considered
Yeah.
an exemption, but over 65 homestead, those are deductions. The reason why
That's statute, those things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that we're.
doesn't mean they can't change the law, because they were thinking about getting rid of the mortgage deduction.
Yeah, they would be the ones that have to change it.
Yes, which they've been mulling over, getting rid of the mortgage deduction, but increasing the homestead by $3,000 more. Well, wait a minute, not only files a mortgage deduction, but you're going to give every home another $3,000. Sorry, counties, you're going to be even hurting off worse. Well, it failed. Did I answer the question for you? Okay. Yes, they've been faithfully having me in every year, talking for an hour or two. Huntington, I love how they were 6-7 years ago in the red. Now they're $1 million to $2 million in the black. They made their own spreadsheet before the state came up with last year's. They made one up years before that. The state always rounded off to, they call it 4 decimal places, but when you put a percentage in front, it's 2,2. So in your case, you said 3.1% increase was like last year, was it? Or 3.2 growth?
The growth, 3.8.
3.8. They made sure when they did each one, they brought it to 3.835. You know, when it's less than half, it rounds down when the state looks at it. So they've been picking up, I call nickels and dimes. They call it a few 10,000 here, 11,000, from each of the different funds, because when it gets to the state, they round it off and say, well, they never exceeded the 3.8 at that point, because there's always 3.84. So it's taken 7 years of monkeying around with the other decimal places to actually put back more into the general fund. So there's always ways around this stuff.
Well, it's good, yeah. Well, like you said, we were kind of startled when we seen the number change there and thought that, something we're going to have to start addressing here. So.
Like I said, in Wabash, I told them the bottom line is everything's exponential. Back when I was in high school, the math teacher, if I gave you a penny today, 2 cents tomorrow, double it for 30 days, would you work for me for the next year for free? Out of the entire class, I said, yeah, I will. Because by the 27th or 28th day, I'm a millionaire. The other's like, oh, come on, a penny, 2 cents, 4 cents, 8 cents. Yes. Your losses, as Wabash has already found out, they just exponentially keep getting worse. Now they have no idea now, except for, pulling the credits away, and what now is 14% homeowners are paying. Now, you take 12 years ago and beyond, homeowners are paying 28% of the taxes. The state has that archived off, for decades. Homeowners paid 25 to 30%. 28 was a nice round number in the middle. And Wabash got down to 3 because they gave so much credit. 3 years ago, they were at 6 and 7. Now they're up to 14. Again, by pulling away, it's going to go back up to, well, in your case, matter of fact, I did yours, 17.9. Your county homeowners are paying 17.9% of the tab. Rentals, 8.1. Agricultural property, 21%. And businesses, 49.88, 50%. 50% of your money is coming from businesses. Between business and farmers, you get 71, 72% is what keeping this county going. And yet you give the credits to homeowners. Because as a farmer, you have 1 vote. As a homeowner, a portion of that. So, anyways, that's all I wanted to say.
Well, we appreciate you coming in. Any other questions?
Very informative. I appreciate it.
This man knows his number.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it, Darren. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Darren, I just want to make sure now, if you do elect to do any changes, you have to have a hearing and invite all the taxing units
The
within.
LGF wanted to make sure, the other units, you should invite them. But the LGF wanted to emphasize, because they had a few counties, make sure you advertise it, that you're going to have the public meeting, and that you're going to vote on it. And then after, advertise it again, what you decided, because it could get thrown out, because 2 counties did get it thrown out, because even though they advertised, we're having a meeting, and we're going to vote vote on. Then they didn't advertise afterwards. Here's what we decided.
Oh, the decision.
Yeah. So they stress, advertise. It's a small amount to pay for an advertisement. Consider what the repercussions are.
So we do need to make sure we keep that in mind if there is any changes.
Yeah, they told me, please emphasize that, and I thank you for reminding me. You've done a lot of that today.
Thanks for coming, Dave.
Appreciate it.
All right. At this point, we got miscellaneous business.
Let's see what all I got here. Okay, I do have the annual certification of the wheel tax surtax, and every year we have to certify whether we're making any changes to our ordinance or if we're keeping it the same. So I do have that.
Well, we haven't really discussed it much at this stage. My personal feelings on it are that we have the 10-cent gas tax that's coming on. Those distributions are going to start coming in the next few months. At this point in time, we're pretty well middle of the range on our wheel tax. I'd rather sit back and see what's going to happen with our distributions from the state on fuel tax and leave wheel tax and surtax alone at this point in time. I don't think the taxpayers out here need to get hit again. You know, we're getting 10 cents on the gallon, from the pump.
And 30 cents on diesel.
Yeah, exactly. And I just feel as though it's something, if we can wait and see how it goes, we'll see how it goes.
I would echo
leave it
those
alone
comments.
at this point in time.
I agree.
I agree.
Do we need to make a motion, I assume, on that?
Yeah, let's do.
We have a motion to leave our surtax, wheel tax.
I'll make a
same.
motion to leave the current wheel tax, surtax
Right.
as is.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carries. We're going to leave it alone.
I also had a lot today. Nate, our county engineer, has drafted a letter for the council to sign showing the financial support for the matching funds for our community crossings, that we put the money in rainy day and we'll use that money as our matching grant. So he has got a letter drafted and requires all of your signatures, so he could send that in. I think he's got the application ready to go this Friday, still waiting on letters of support. He said he hadn't got any yet, but this financial support is going to go along with his application.
So we need to make a motion to make this financial commitment. It's in rainy day. It's just a commitment for the 75-25 match. Right?
Yeah, the 25% that will be.
Again, it's just a
moving
commitment
through that
stating the
matching
county will
grant fund.
follow through if we are accepted on it. So, we have a motion to accept the
I'll make the motion.
sign the letter. We have a motion. We have a second.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Opposed? Motion carries on that one. So we'll need to sign that.
Okay. Also, we have or you as a board have an appointment that's going to come up for the Wells County Library Board. The appointment will expire mid-August, and it is for Jackie Cheney, and she cannot serve another term. She's hit her maximum amount to serve, so she cannot serve. I did advertise in the news banner the first of the month to take applications. I forget where it was, through mid-July here somewhere. Anyhow, we had one application left over from when we advertised before, and I know when I talked to the library, they said that they did have a couple people that has expressed interest in it. So I'm assuming that I'm going to be getting more. I haven't got any yet, but I'm assuming they're going to be coming in. So I just want to let you know that we will have that, and that is on the agenda for the August meeting. Okay. So as soon as I get that deadline, I forget what deadline it was, but as soon as we get that, I will forward you all the applications so you'll have them prior to that meeting.
Good. Thanks.
Thank you.
Is that everything?
That's all I have with all the other stuff I gave you.
Something here that was presented to me that I wasn't even aware of until this was presented to me, that there's two different rates for mileage reimbursements. One is, which here in Wells County, we usually follow the IRS reimbursement, and the state has its own reimbursement, which shows 38 cents is what the state shows. And it's whatever, 51, 55, whatever it is from the IRS.
53.5.
The Internal Revenue Service rates. I guess the question is, what Beth had explained, many of the counties do follow the state rate. Now, that's reimbursements for personal vehicles, am I correct on that? That's used. And so I guess the question comes up, and I guess for the council to think about, should we be using the state rate at 38 cents, or should we be using the Internal Revenue Service at the 53 cents?
My view is we should use the state rate.
I mean, I'm thinking the same way after I've heard so many counties do it. We're actually one of the only ones that uses the IRS.
Well, very few.
Yeah, very few.
Most of them
in our
follow the
area,
state rate.
yeah, most of them use the state. To me, the state sets it, and we talked a little bit about the IRS. You know, you're using fuel prices from California, from New York.
Exactly.
They're probably using averages more than here in the state of Indiana. I'm assuming they're using our local type
Cost
fuel.
of operate a vehicle, I would think, be different. So.
When was that?
This is just showing the July 11th. I guess the way I understand it, it was just what.
I just printed that because they sent out a new one that there was a rate change. I think is what we got, and every year they kind of send that out that there was a rate change and stuff. So when that comes about, I thought, well, maybe I just need to bring that up to you.
Has there always been such a differential between the federal and state?
I'm guessing they follow. Yeah, I don't know when fuel was $4 a gallon or whatever. I don't know if they were closer or not.
Well, we adopted that federal rate because we always had our own rate. It was like 50 cents. You know, we went from 30 cents to 50 cents when gas went really high, and then we adopted just to go with the federal rate because we just follow whatever their rate was. And but then there's also a state rate. So I mean, you could go either way. We could go back to adopt whatever rate we want, or we could go to a state rate, or we could go to a federal rate. It's really.
I kind of think years ago, this was mentioned by a superintendent, where you had the lower rate, but in filing your taxes, you could file the difference with your taxes as a, kind of like a loss or however, that you could turn that in on your taxes for, some kind of credit on your taxes so that you didn't have the full blunt of it. So I think the difference between the two, you could turn it in. That was what he said years ago, and I'm not sure if it still applies.
Now, do the commissioners make decisions? Is this strictly a council decision? Okay, on this right here. So like I said, bringing that up, I would prefer to use the state, my personal opinion, the state rate versus the Internal Revenue Service rate.
Piles.
And there's no vehicle, like, say you go to a meeting, you have to use your own personal vehicle, am I right? There's no vehicle available that people could take other than ones that are assigned to the people now.
Right. Yeah, if it's a county-owned vehicle, then of course they don't get paid
mileage. Right.
Just only on your personal vehicle.
Right.
And it would be different if it was a sales vehicle where you were living in your car all the time and you had to pay for the wear and tear of a business. But this is
just a reimbursement.
Short-term,
for where you're going to. So, if you'd like to take a look at this.
Looks like you're publishing one here very soon.
Yeah.
And they'll do it just sometimes, like if there's a big peak in gas prices or something like that.
They
They'll
change
just,
it more than once a year?
Yeah. They've changed it more than once before because, when the gas prices was going like really up and down, they made changes a couple different times a year. So they usually either come in, just like the IRS, they'll come out, this is what our annual rate is, but then, sometimes that can get adjusted.
Like I said, I wasn't aware that there was two different, the state did set this.
I really had not heard that before either.
Yeah,
so.
New to me. So, is this something we could just go ahead and take action on at this point in time?
Yeah, you just need to let me know when you want it to be.
I guess we'd have, I just going to say, would it be something you want to start at the first of the year, or something you would start?
You probably need to re-sign the county reimbursement thing that we
policy.
have. So So probably wouldn't make it effective until after that time, so we wouldn't have that until the August meeting, so we would probably make it effective either September 1 or January 1. I mean, it doesn't make any difference.
January 1 would make sense for individuals.
That'd probably be the easiest.
Taxes purposes, sure, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you're talking about big dollars.
No.
So it
Which
makes
is-
sense
that's
to
fine.
do it on a January 1.
Kind of just do it right
Makes sense
through
to
our, we'll do it probably then right through our budget purpose, or when we're doing our budget stuff, we'll probably just get it ready and sign it during that time too.
You want us to make a motion on it now, or just, or
Yeah,
wait
we
till?
can- we can just
Do it
wait.
September, okay.
You can
That's
wait
what I'll do.
because,
Only change it once a
you may
year.
change your mind.
It's gonna get confusing.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Yeah, if we want to do that
Could.
in our
We'll do
budget.
it
yeah.
after, like when we do our
Okay.
budget,
Why-
we'll just make it.
Yeah, and you would just put in the state rate, we wouldn't specify an amount.
Right,
I
we
would
would just,
assume
just like we
state
did
rate.
with the federal, we would just
Right.
follow the state rate. Instead of saying follow the federal rate, we do
File the state rate.
follow the
There we
state
go.
rate.
So you're going to remind us about that. so.
Yep, I will put that.
Okay. I also wanted to bring up, obviously, everybody received the information on changing the dates for our budget. That all got twisted around when we found out the DLGF was, so we've got the September 13th is our, at 8 a.m. is our meeting with all the department heads. And then on the 14th, and also September 18th at 6 p.m. would be our workshop or our budget review. And then hearing would be October 3rd, which would be our normal meeting, right?
Yes.
For public hearing and then adoption, hopefully for the October 24th then. So, any dates, any conflicts for anybody, or everybody's good on that? Okay. Okay, we're set with that then. And did you want to ask about this?
Well, this is completely up to you all.
You can say that.
But my vacation this year has to be, because of the way it works out, I will not be here for August the 8th. And that is the date that we have our August meeting, because it's the first Tuesday after the first Monday, unless it's stated otherwise, just like today being on a Wednesday. I threw it out to Todd is if the council would like to change their August meeting to August the 1st, I will be here August the 1st. I will not be here August the 8th. I could have a staff member come on August the 8th, except for, which she would be fine, but August of every year, the first meeting in August, you have to, you as council have to approve the levy and the circuit breakers and all of that. And in case anybody had questions, I would have more knowledge of that than what a staff member would, more so.
I would appreciate you being here, and I would
I didn't have a problem changing it to August.
have no problem changing my day.
I know
If everybody
Seth
else is
and
good.
Jim is not here, and I'll be getting
We'll
to that
overrule.
too. And I will hate it. I mean, we tried everything
No, I think it'd
to
be
change
good.
that, and it's just I can't get that time changed.
Do we have to advertise since it'd be a change?
Yeah, I will. I will.
Okay.
Put it on. I'll change it on the website, and of course we'll post the thing, and then Jessica might mention it too, and then I'll send you a new thing too, so you just have it for your records. So
No, I have no problem. Let's figure out August 1st then.
I like that one better anyways.
It wouldn't be the same without you, Barry.
well, I'm sure my deputy would appreciate that me being here for that particular meeting, just because we have a lot going on with budgets right now too. It's just kind of a busy time.
I guess, Cal?
I have one item I'd like to bring to light, something that's come to my attention the last couple of weeks at a state function. Indiana has an Indiana Public Defender Commission. I was not aware of that until recently. I also found out that they have a reimbursement program for 40% of the public defender program of a county.
Really?
There's 57 counties in Indiana that participate in the program. Wells County does not. Just a couple highlights here of a couple counties around us. Jay County was reimbursed $66,000 in the last year. Grant County was $219,000 reimbursement. 40,000 just shy at Blackford, and 62,000 just shy in Adams County. So I think it would be prudent to at least especially at budget time, maybe close our circuit and superior judges, get their feedback on it. Without a doubt, dealing with the state, there's hurdles
I just
that we have to jump through. But at this conference I attended a couple weeks ago, they made it sound like it was a no-brainer, that why aren't we in it? So I think it's something that we should at least pursue. I'm not being a proponent that we jump on board, but at least garner some information on it.
Certainly.
I did a little research. Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
At that meeting, we were on it at one time, so... And then it looked like we had withdrawn, so I was hoping the judge would have been here. Maybe
Yeah, I was going to say, be
Well,
something.
maybe when I talked to him about the coming, explaining the transfer, maybe we can
Yes,
also put
yes,
that on the
yeah.
agenda.
Yes.
I did do a little research because I read that information on that, and I know that there is certain, you have to follow certain rules. And if you don't
Absolutely.
follow the rules, you don't get the reimbursement.
Right.
And I know that was a concern at one time
Right.
of what the rules, and I sent out, actually, the question went through our email chain for auditors, and so information was coming through on that, and I have a stack of the responses, and I wanted to get with the judge, but unfortunately I haven't had time.
Here again, if we look at it and determine that it's too much work or not worth the time, but I think we at least do pursue the knowledge anyways.
Here's another thing, these judges we have now are they're all different judges than, in the past.
I will
several
ask them
terms,
if
so,
they would like to come get on the agenda and talk
Well, and,
about it.
as Mike indicated, to the best of our knowledge, we were in it at one time, but there was a funding problem back at its inception, and the last 9 years looks like it's been really steady at the 40%, with a good possibility of it going to 50% next year, the
Yeah,
reimbursement.
it's definitely something to look into.
So,
All right, anything else from council members? I think we took care of everything, didn't we?
I think so.
Okay. File over here, so. Well, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor, signify by raising your hand. Opposed? We are adjourned.